Okay. Oh, here we go. And we are live. Welcome to our third installment with Jeremy Campbell. And today we are tackling the parent problem, which I think we can all relate. I'm a mom, I'm at a softball game. So I am in the throes of being a sports parent right in the present moment as we do this. So this should be a very interactive webinar. So drop in your questions as we go along. And I'll let Thomas and Jeremy just do a quick introduction for those that have not joined us in the past. I'm Erin, by the way. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Blueprint to Blue Chip.
Awesome. Jeremy, you're up.
Jeremy Campbell, founder and CEO of Legacy Sports Management and Media, a holistic athlete management company designed to prepare athletes for success both on and off the field.
Awesome. And I am Thomas Rowe. I am Erin's co-founder of Blueprint to Blue Chip, and this is an exciting opportunity. Basically what happened here, just kind of give a backstory of Parent Problem, is we recently had an interview with somebody who, and we don't want to drop names, he is the director of baseball operations for the latest baseball team, USA baseball team. And he said something really interesting, and that is parents are the problem. And he kind of said it in jest, and then it sparked a conversation between Jeremy and other partners. Exactly what has been your experience working with parents? And are they a problem? Are they a hindrance? Are they an obstacle? Are they an opportunity? So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy because he has an incredible insight with what he shared about his company. So Jeremy, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Do you have an anecdote or a story you'd like to lead us off with?
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus either, but I can also say this. You guys know, I'm a new parent. 2 kids under the age of 5. I can see immediately how one can start to blur the lines between being supportive and trying to live vicariously through their child. I think especially those of us who are super competitive often lose sight of the fact that as a parent, it's our number one priority is when it comes to sports, is just to make sure that our kids are enjoying themselves and giving their best effort. And that's kind of where it stops. Be supportive. As the athletes start to get older and they start to advance the level of play, there's a whole bunch of self-reflection and self-criticism that they go through. So it's really not in their best interest if we start to add on to that. I think I wouldn't frame it as the parent problem. I think the overwhelming majority of us will agree that the majority of these parents are just not informed. And I think that with that lack of information, with that lack of credible information, and their reluctance to be objective in what they're watching, a lot of stuff is kind of misconstrued and taken the wrong way.
No question. When a quick backstory how Erin and I met is as a sports performance coach out here in Denver. I was telling Erin a little bit about my background of having done this for about 20 years back in Los Angeles and working with high school athletes. And she told me about her 2 kids. And as a matter of fact, like she shared, she's with her daughter right now at a softball game. So she's conducting this webinar from the bleachers. Way to go, Mom. But one of the first questions I would always ask a parent when I was working with their child was, Mom and Dad, before we get your athlete on the phone, is this your dream or is this your kid's dream? And I think Jeremy can attest to this, that if it's the parent's dream, it's going to derail rather quickly. The parents are going to be more vested in it, not just financially, but emotionally. And that's where the big breakdown happens. And one of the initial inceptions of Blueprint to Blue Chip, when we started off, is it's a very hands-on approach. And what we do is we talk to the coach monthly. So basically how we cater to the coach is say, Coach, listen, let's get a breakdown of your athlete. Let's Johnny or Sally. What are they like athletically and what are they like as their character? And then from there, we take it to the parents and we talk to the parents. We've sorted out whether or not it's their dream or their child's dream or their student athlete's dream. Then we get the student athlete on the phone and everybody's in alignment. So we talk to the coach once a month, we talk to the parents weekly, and we talk to the student athlete daily. And when I say daily, it doesn't mean we have to get on there for a half hour, 45-minute webinar. We just have just kind of touching points. And that's when everyone seems pretty aligned. And then what Erin has established is the fact that we need to coach the parents as well. And me not being a parent, Jeremy being a parent, and Aaron being a parent, I asked, what does that look like to you, Aaron, to coach the parents? So, Aaron, I'm going to ask you that question. As a parent of two athletes, what does that look like to you?
I think it's helping you remain objective. Obviously, I'm a mom. Jeremy's a dad. We love our kids unconditionally, and we think they're the best thing since sliced bread. There's no two better humans in my eyes than my son and my daughter. But I also have to remember that, they're on their journey and they're here and they're going to have their ups and downs. And it's not my job to protect them from all the learnings and to just remain objective so that they can actually learn and grow. Because if I intercede or step in or, like, oh, you're so great. Like, why that coach is, what are they thinking? You're amazing. I'm not allowing my child to really get the growth and development they need. And so I have learned it and observed it in myself. So when I coach other parents, it's like I can completely relate to where you're at. It's not like I'm some perfect parent. Trust me, I have to keep myself under control at these sporting events. But it's like I have to remember I'm here to support them regardless of how well they're exceeding or doing. And they're going to have streaks. Like my daughter right now she's hot at the plate, which is amazing. But there's going to be a moment where that's not going to be going on. And she needs to know that that's okay too. And so they're going to have the peaks and the valleys, and they need their parents just there kind of steady Eddie for them, not riding the wave with them and not fueling whatever's coming up and helping them reframe what they need to work on. And so it's a huge lesson for me. I've grown so much as a parent through being a sporting parent and observing and watching when I haven't gotten it right, what that impact is on my child.
Got it. What about you, Jeremy? In your experience, what's it been like to, let's say, coach the parents?
It's been interesting. It's funny because I think throughout my career, I've noticed that it's a pretty even divide with, half the parents wanting, expecting the best, expecting the highest level of output, the highest level of commitment, the highest level of dedication. And then the other half of them being extremely realistic, understanding that, hey, this is my child's first year or second year playing the sport. They're just trying to figure out whether they like it. So I think, my experience has really been growing to understand that the issue is just, number one, making sure that the parents understand specifically that this is not the same level of athletics that you see on TV, right? This is not ESPN. These are, sometimes high school, sometimes middle school. Even for the parents who are older, who have, athletes competing at the collegiate level. Hey, this is Division III football. This is not, Alabama versus LSU. The play is going to be a little bit different. So getting them to understand that. And the second thing is just managing expectations.
Sure.
Getting them to understand that their expectations from what their son or daughter is getting from the sport might not be the same expectations that their son or daughter has towards the sport. So managing the expectations, getting them to understand that there's a lot that they don't know or don't understand. And that statement goes, whether you're a former collegiate or professional athlete, or you've never played a sport in your life. There's a lot, especially in today's game, there's a lot that the average fan just does not know.
Right.
So it just gives them to understand those things.
Awesome. Well, hey, this is amazing. Already we're getting a couple of questions flying in here. So I'm going to read this one out, and I'm just going to throw it out to you first, Jeremy, and then Aaron, if you want to jump in between at bats, go ahead. My daughter's a junior my daughter's a junior and plays D1 level volleyball. She's my only child. I realized tonight that I literally have no hobbies outside of her volleyball. I don't work. My entire schedule is built around her practices, games, and tournaments. All my friends are volleyball moms. My Instagram is 90% of her highlights. Last week, she told me she wants to quit after high school and doesn't want to play in college. And I had a panic attack, like an actual panic attack. I don't know who I am if I'm not a volleyball mom. How do I separate my identity from her sport when it's been my entire life for the last 8 years. Wow, this is pretty heavy. Get a dog. No, I'm kidding. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is interesting because this topic actually came up earlier this week for me, and my approach is simple. So it's really the same thing that we preach to our clients, right? It's what you do is way different from who you are. So right. For this mom, this has probably been never more clear than it is now. How this identity crisis can not only affect the athlete, but affects the athlete's family, because they're so intertwined, they're so wound into the athlete's success, as an athlete, and less concerned about the athlete's success as a person, that they often become experiencing the same woes that the athlete experiences. So I think my advice to the mom is you have to start to make that separation now.
Sure.
You have to start to, engage in activities that don't involve volleyball. Really create that separation between what you do, which is you're a child supporter, right? You're a volleyball mom, and who you are. So more activities, and perhaps they're joint activities that help you as a mom bond with your daughter as your daughter, and not your daughter, the volleyball player.
Sure.
But whatever it is, it needs to be done sooner than later, because when that career comes to an end, instead of a mom supporting the daughter who's now moving on from the sport and the identity that she's known for the last 8 to 10 years, it's going to be the mom and the daughter both grieving that loss. And that's a recipe for disaster in terms of failure for both of you guys to understand who you are, what your interests are, what your likes and dislikes are, how great you can become outside of that sport or supporting that sport.
No question. Great insight. Aaron, what about you? Now, I think the question here is she's an only child. She has an only child. You have 2 student athletes. Do you think that helps you to be able to juggle and not get too involved? Or what are your thoughts on her question?
No, I think you're overly involved in both. Like for me, in both, you want them to exceed in both. But I think, my daughter, I think initially had the aspirations to wanting to go on. And then as she explored and had opportunity to dive into other things, came to love medicine. And she took a CNA class, became a CNA, wants to become a physician assistant. And I think just had the realization of I like softball. Softball's fun. But I want to go, this is going to require next level for me to become a physician's assistant, and softball just is not going to be a part of that. And so for me as a parent, it's just the step back and realization of whatever she's passionate about and loves. And it's taken me a long time to become objective. Okay. Let me just put that out there. I'm okay with, her happiness and her satisfaction means that I've done my job as a parent. Because if I intercede or step in and it's my dream or I'm pressuring her, then it's not hers anymore. And we did that with her at a very young age or younger age with swimming. And she ended up getting burnt out, and then she didn't like it anymore. And so I think you just have to realize, I have friends at softball moms, they ebb and flow, but you're going to get new friends, mom. You're going to find a new circle. It's going to be okay. And I love Jeremy's advice, find stuff that bonds you together that's far beyond volleyball, because you're going to have a long life with her, and you're going to want to find other things to do. And so I don't think it makes it any easier whether you have one child or many. I think realizing how we get caught up in that, it's as a parent, you got to remove yourself of this is fun, but it's my daughter's senior year. I won't be around these parents next year. Is that sad? Sure. But I also realize that that's just a chapter, and we're going to move on to the next thing.
Totally. Here's another great question. This is pretty good insight. My son plays baseball, and I've been telling people we're having a great season, or we didn't play well this week. And for so long, I don't even notice it anymore. And my daughter, who doesn't play sports, asked me last week why I always say we when I'm talking about her brother's team. I got a little defensive and said that's just how sports parents talk. And now I'm realizing maybe it's not normal. And all my conversations with other parents are always about our kids, their stats, our team's record, our chances at the playoffs. I don't even ask about their actual lives. Is this what living vicariously looks like? What are your thoughts, Jeremy?
That's definitely the start of it. 100% the start of it. But you know what? It's completely understandable. It's especially if you're a mom or dad who comes from a sports background yourself. That's a big part of who you are. But again, the issue today is really putting an emphasis on really separating who you are from what you do. I have friends who you play college sports and you really see the drop off, right? 99% of your teammates don't go on to play professionally.
Right.
And they go on to start careers and other things. And if you're fortunate enough to go play professionally in whatever league it is, in whatever sport, you prolong the second chapter or the third chapter of your life by a few months or a few years. But I have a lot of friends who are law enforcement. And if it's one population that in my experience, that's really done a good job of separating who they are from what they do, it tends to be those men and women. So I think if we can take a page out of their playbook and just understand, hey, the job is a job, and you can love the job more than anything in the world. But when you take off, the helmet and shoulder pads, when you take off the sneakers, when you take the tactical belt and the badge off, you're just Joe, the police officer, or Billy, the quarterback.
Right.
And understanding that when we separate who we are from what we do, it's only going to lead to us fulfilling our complete potential, not just the potential in sports.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What are your thoughts, Aaron?
I mean, Jeremy is like a man of wisdom. So I'm like, I don't know if I could say it much better than that, but it really is. It's a separation. I like to focus on, the whole of who you are is far beyond just your outward, what you're doing. That's one expression of a multitude of things. So, for my athletes, my two kids, they're students, they're brothers and sisters. They have outside interests. They're not just a football player or a softball player. And I think reminding them of that, and the more I remind them of that, I think the more fun they have. And it's fun to see, like I'm seeing it translate with my daughter more. So we're in season where she's just relaxed and having fun. So it's not the expectations that I think she's felt in the past. And
Right.
So I think it's really what Jeremy said. You got to separate the identity. You are whole and complete already. What you go do, that's one expression of that. And you have to learn how to teach your kids that too, so they don't get so wrapped up into it that they don't know who they are outside of that sport.
Yeah.
And that they have other praise and recognition too that isn't just on the field.
Sure. To add to that, I think you should just have fun with it. The person that asked this question, and that is, my dad used to ask me before the game, so how are we going to play tonight? And then after the game, he's like, so how'd you play? And I was like, oh, how did I play? How did we play? And it became a running joke between us. And then I played ball in the late 80s, early 90s, right before we were going to Desert Storm. I'm confusing with Arizona. Desert Storm. And I remember saying to my dad, I said, so are we going to war? And he's like, I don't think you are, but I am, because he was in the military. And my dad and I just kind of played off each other on that one, because it can be a sticking point, because I think all three of us can agree. We've seen parents that just absolutely drop their basket when games are on the line or if there's a loss. And I'm truly shocked when I see some parents that absolutely lose it at games. And something that we haven't addressed, and I'm sure it'll probably come up in the questions, is when parents get so animated, they attack the refs, maybe not physically, but maybe just verbally. Do you have any thoughts on that, Jeremy, before we get into some of the other questions on when a parent actually crosses the line and literally goes after a ref verbally?
My thoughts on it, it's terrible. It's a terrible, we talk to our kids all the time about how they are representatives of the team and the jersey and the school that they go to, right? But as parents, we're in the stands cheering for our children. We're representatives of them. So our actions, just like we tell our kids, hey, if you're going out on Friday night or Saturday night, don't do anything stupid. Our kids, I would say our kids should be able to look at us and tell us, hey, okay, we got a big game Friday night. I know you're going to be in the stands, and don't do or say anything stupid, mom or dad. It's one of those things where you have to. It's a game. And yes, it might be high stakes, right? There might be scholarships and opportunities on the line, but at the end of the day, we have to remember that the umpires and referees are just men and women doing their job. And just like sometimes we get things wrong at our job, sometimes they might have a bad call or a missed call. It doesn't give us the right to verbally assault or attack them or belittle them from the fans. I think it's cool to be able to, to display your frustrations, but understand there's a very, very, very fine line between taking it too far and getting your point across.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been there as a parent where they're like, Mom, please don't act like this person. So I've had those conversations, where the kids are just like, can you just please sit there and just clap? They don't want to hear your voice. They don't want to, it's kind of mortifying to them, and so, I remember, my son, there was a lady on my, she was a parent on my daughter's travel softball team this a couple of years ago. We had never met them, and we were first game, and she was wild, is how I will describe it. And I just remember my son going, Mom, please don't ever act like that. Sure. And I was like, no, like you were just like, it was so distracting. You're like, yeah, you don't want to be that parent. And so, yeah, it's a distraction. And to Jeremy's point, it's a representation, and your kids are a reflection of your integrity and character. So if you can't keep it in control, it becomes a distraction for them too.
No question. I do remember one time I was already in college and my brothers were playing a game. As a matter of fact, they were playing for the conference championship. And Mark and Matt were two-way players. They played offensive line and defensive line. And towards the end of the game, they did not put Mark and Matt. The team didn't put Mark and Matt in. And when they lost the game, my mom was very vocal in the crowd saying that the reason why they lost is because they didn't put Mark and Matt in. And my dad was like, all right, Ann, that's enough. It's time to go. I mean, that was, I do remember that being embarrassing. And I think a lot of parents were just wound up at that time. But I don't think my brothers ever knew about it. And first of all, my brothers wouldn't give a shit or care. They wouldn't care. They'd be like, they would shrug their shoulders. But I remember how I felt, and I can imagine how other players or other teams or other parents would feel. This one's a tough question, and she leads by saying, embarrassing mom. Last month, I said to my son, we've spent over $10,000 on travel baseball this year, and you can't afford to play like that right after a bad tournament. He didn't say anything, but my husband told me later that I was completely out of line. You think? I justified it by saying he needs to understand the investment we're making, but I'm watching this webinar and realizing I've been holding financial investments over his head for years. He's 16. That's too much pressure. How do I undo that? And can I undo that? Jeremy, thoughts on that one?
Undo. I think you pretty much passed the point of undoing. I think it's just about correcting your mistakes and move forward.
Yeah.
Resetting the tone, resetting the parameters of the relationship. Look, you're always going to be mom. I'm pretty sure that the words that were said doesn't make him feel any differently about you as a mom, but definitely makes him feel a little bit differently about you as a supporter of what he's doing. So I think the best course of action is just to acknowledge your mistake. If you want to acknowledge it in his presence, even better. I think that's a great model of how we should conduct ourselves as adults, and then let the actions, prove how you feel moving forward. I think that's at 16, and the damage is already done. Yeah. I think the greatest damage would be even if you feel differently, not acknowledging your mistake and not correcting it. I think that would do greater damage than the actual words right now. But I think you realized it, you presented it to us. I think the best course of action is to just reset the table. You can't unsay what you've already said. You can't undo, how you act. But you can act differently and speak differently moving forward.
Yeah.
No question. Aaron?
Yeah, I would just say I think there's such an opportunity to go, and I've done this as a mom. Like I was wrong, and let me tell you why I think I was wrong. I own my mistake there, and this is how I'm going to behave going forward. And I have to change my behavior and show them what I just told them is actually true. And so I've been there. Trust me, I have been there. We have spent plenty on all sports in my household, but I don't want my kids to look at that and go and think that that's what the value is. Like, I'm investing money in you, so how are you showing up? I think you do have to have a standard for your kids and really make sure, like, are you in this and are you giving your best? If this is your best, whether you spend $10,000, $5,000, $200,000, like, that's not the point. I think what you want from your child is, are you giving your best based on who you want to be? And so that's always my question. If you're given 110% and that's your best, I'm 100% supportive of that. If you feel like there's more to give, then you've got to dig deep in yourself and figure out what you have to do differently in order to do that. But that has nothing to do with my investment in catching lessons, hitting lessons, throwing lessons, speed drills, you name it. That's not the point of it. I think you want them to, what I hear in that is you want them to excel. So I think you have to ask them the questions to go, are you really taking advantage of everything that's been given to you in order to be your best?
Yeah. No quote. So it's so interesting. We were just talking about this, and I got a question. It says, question for Jeremy. John from Roll Tide. Well, John, you're going to get my opinion too, but we'll start with Jeremy. I coach from the stands, and I know it's bad, but I can't stop. I play D1 myself, and I see things coaches don't see. I yell instructions, pass it, shoot, post up consistently during games. My daughter has asked me multiple times to stop. Other parents have moved away from me in the bleachers. The coach won't make eye contact with me anymore, but I genuinely think I'm helping her. I can't wait to see what Jeremy has to say, John. Roll Tide, bud. Roll Tide. I have the knowledge and experience. Why shouldn't I share it during games? Except now I realize maybe I'm not helping. Maybe I'm the reason she looks anxious on the field.
I love this. It's like a parent confessional.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll take it easy on you. Going by the Roll Tide, I'm assuming you're a Bama fan, and I have ties to Bama. So I won't give you my normal sharp, blunt, piercing response. I think you typing the question has answered the question.
Right.
But honestly, it's just like, you know what? They're the coach for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And just like any other profession, you wouldn't go tell a heart surgeon, hey, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
Respect their position, respect their presence. And also, how do you expect your child to respect their coach if you don't?
Mm-hmm.
So it's you're setting a not so good example. I said I was going to take it easy on you. So you're setting a not so good example, not only for now, but just for the future. Like behaviors are modeled. And I'm learning this in real time as a relatively new dad. Behaviors are modeled, reactions are modeled. Like if you're angry, if you're always objecting, and you're like, your kid's gonna do the same thing. And it doesn't matter if they're 6 or they're 16. And then from 16 it becomes the same behavior at 26, and then at 36, and they're trying to figure out why they can't keep a job. The cycle goes on and on and on. So I think for instances like this, your question answered your question. Understand they're the coach for a reason. Understand that they were appointed the coach for a reason, and whether you support their coaching style or methods or not, the fact of the matter is you not supporting it is not going to make them no longer be the coach. So you got to just kind of roll with it.
Yep. No pun intended. Yeah, John, that's what he said. John, I think that you're going to get my 2 cents for it. Building on what Jeremy said, you kind of answered your own question, and I hope you could take what I shared about me and my dad, and you guys could laugh about it later. But I think if you just acknowledge it head on right now and just kind of reel it in, your daughter she's always going to love you no matter what, and you're going to always love her no matter what. But just be cognizant of what you're doing, where you're doing it, and what you're doing. This next question here is, my son is so shy and awkward in recruiting conversations that I just take over. I don't mean to, but I can't stand the silence when he doesn't answer fast enough or when he gives a one-word response. So I jump in and elaborate. I tell the story better than he does. I make him sound more impressive than he sounds. But I'm realizing coaches aren't getting to know him; they're getting to know me. And when he gets to college, I don't want them to. I won't be there to talk for him. What happens then, Jeremy? What are your thoughts on this?
I'll keep it simple. Leave the room. Leave. All jokes aside, they're recruiting your kid. It's a package deal. And what the coaches are observing is that, hey, this kid can't function without the parent.
Right.
Mhm.
So what they're going to do is they're going to take, Bobby off the immediate list and move him to the third or fourth list because of that. College sports now are they're big businesses,
Yeah.
and they want employees that can function independently without having to double check or look over their shoulders. And the fact that the parent is jumping in, answering basic questions about the athlete, is a huge red flag for them. So trust me, the athlete giving a one-word answer is a lot better than the parent jumping in and answering for the athlete. So I said it jokingly, leave the room, but I was being kind of serious. Like, the best thing you can do is either, number one, learn how to hit the mute button on yourself and just let the kid give the one-word answer, or number two, excuse yourself from the room and kind of give them the private time. And you never know, your son might be silent and not very talkative because you're in the room.
Right.
Maybe you excusing yourself might allow him to open up and be himself, which is what the coaches want to see.
Sure. Aaron, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I love this question. And I think Jeremy really nailed it. I think there's such an opportunity to allow your child to shine and allow your child to fail, whatever the outcome is.
Right.
They need to be themselves. As Jeremy said, as we recruit and move through, this is a business. And, when I think of running corporations and doing things of that nature, you would never be you should not be calling your child's place of employment to speak for them. And so you got to be developing those skills within them to be able to handle those conversations. And I think Jeremy nailed it. I think oftentimes our kids default to the environment that they're in. So if mom always takes over, well, they're just going to naturally do that. So how are they ever going to excel? So you got to sometimes, to Jeremy's point, you either got to excuse yourself or you just got to zip your lips and sit there and allow for whatever's going to go on and be totally okay with that. Like,
Sure.
I think the one thing when parents, living vicariously through your child is you're attached to their outcome. When it's like, it's their outcome, you're here to love and support them along the way. And so giving them the opportunity to succeed or fail, to Jeremy's point, they could knock it out of the park if you just zipped your lips and they allowed their personality to shine versus you taking over. So.
Sure. And you also have to remember, when we talk to our athletes and our families, there's two different emotions going on in that living room and that recruiting visit. The student athlete is really nervous and the parents are super excited. So that's two entirely different personalities and energy in that room. And, Aaron and I we've actually talked to some baseball coaches that have they watch their players or the people that they have their eye on. Do they show up 15 minutes before game time? Are they walking in with their Crocs on, with their hat tilted sideways, with their glasses on? They pay attention to that. And mom and dad are carrying their baseball bag. Coaches pay attention to that. We also have other basketball recruiters that show up to the game about 2 hours earlier just to watch this player, see how he is in warm up. And the one thing that drives recruiters crazy as well as coaches is when they're looking at a recruit and he's before the game just taking selfies, he's on his phone, he's not engaging in the whole team activity. So I think it's important to just follow what Jeremy's advice and just go ahead and leave the room and let the athlete they're not going to hang themselves. If they're in your living room recruiting, they've got a pretty good idea who that athlete is. And this is just an opportunity to dot the I's and cross the T's. So, okay, this is a good one. Wow. My husband and I fight constantly about our son's sports. I think he's too hard on him. He critiques every mistake, sets crazy expectations. Nothing is ever good enough. My husband thinks I'm too soft. I make excuses for bad performances. I baby him. I don't push him enough. Our son is caught in the middle trying to please both of us. After games, we argue in front of him about how he played. I defend him. My husband says I'm enabling mediocrity. My son told his coach he feels like he can't win with us. How do I get on the same page when we have completely different parenting philosophies? Wow. Jeremy?
Man, this is turning into a parenting seminar.
Yeah.
This one, this might be above my pay grade, man. It sounds like, I don't know. I haven't, you talk about being able to speak, through past experiences, but I haven't reached this chapter yet. I'm sure it's got to be challenging for the athlete. I'm trying to put myself in his shoes. I think you and your husband have to find a happy medium and understand, just like parenting, both parents are never going to have the same parenting style. You have to agree that that's their way and this is my way, and you guys agree to exist somewhere in the middle. And until that happens, I think you guys have to figure out immediately just how to reassure your son that it's not him, it's us.
Right.
Not the issue. I think that's probably the most pressing concern right now that I can identify is that is this kid. He's already voiced he feels like he can't win with you guys as parents. That's for it to be that bad for the kid to go to a coach and admit that, lets you know that he's feeling the pressure. So I think you guys need to do some damage control right there on the front lines with him and just assure him that it's not him. And then in the meantime, you guys have to figure out on finding a common ground, a middle ground where you can agree to coach and critique, your son differently, not equal, but fair. I think that's probably where you have to end up.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts,
I
Erin?
can totally relate to this. I actually, I wouldn't say it's maybe that dramatic in what I have experienced or lived, obviously, with my student athletes and their dad and myself. I think, what I would challenge you is, again, how do you take your step back and become the support system for him? And how is he performing? What is he doing? I've been there. Like, I know as a parent, when you know your kid's capability and you're like, you think that they're underperforming that, you think like giving them that critique and feedback's going to help them out. I'll just tell you, living it doesn't work that way. I've also been the mom that's like, let me make sure this feels good. Moms kind of have more of that tendency, and you're probably trying to compensate for your husband, but you don't need to. What you guys both need to do is have some neutrality around your son and just be a support system to know that you love him. You're his mom and dad. And I've learned, becoming a coach actually made me a better parent, because it taught me to just get curious with whomever I'm in front of, whether it's my kids, whether it's the two of you, and just ask a lot of questions. How did you think that game went? What do you think you could have done better? Not necessarily right after the game or in the moment or anything like that. Give yourself some space, allow the child to process. They already know the mistakes they make. I watch it. Jeremy watches it. Thomas, watch them. They're harder than the coach is going to ever be on them or you. And so just recognizing that they know where they screwed up. They don't need you screaming at them. They don't need you. I think being inquisitive of like, what do you think you could do differently? What do you think you need help with? How can I support you in that improvement? Get more curious versus like, I'm going to coddle you as the mom, or I'm going to get mad at you as the dad and find out, be writing you of like, we have higher expectations of you. And so I just think there's an opportunity for us to be much more neutral, detached from the outcome of your child, and just be a support system and ask them more questions to see how you can help them.
Sure. This is a good question. My son told me last week that he doesn't enjoy baseball anymore, and he's only still playing because he knows how much I've invested in it. I said, "That's ridiculous. You love baseball." He said, "No, Mom, you love baseball. I'm just afraid to disappoint you." I didn't believe him. I said he was being dramatic, and then my husband pulled me aside one on one and said, "He's telling you the truth, and you're not listening." Have I been too focused on his baseball career that I've missed the fact that he doesn't even want to play anymore? What if I've been forcing my dream on him this entire time? Wow. Jeremy, thoughts?
Yeah, it's the same issue. It's the same issue, right? It's the identity issue. It's trying to live vicariously through the kid. If a kid tells you he doesn't love it or she doesn't love it, then that's where they are. It's nothing
Right.
you can do. Forcing them to continue to play is not gonna make them fall back in love with the game. It's gonna make them resent you. So,
Yeah.
Worst case, okay, maybe again we're talking about the most irrational age group ever, right? It's the 13 to 16, 17. Okay, even if you force them and even if they do fall back in love with the game, they're still gonna fall out of love with you. So which one do
Right.
you want? Do you want them to love baseball and hate you, or do you want them to love you and kind of just lose their love for baseball? I mean, it's not the end of the world. They can always fall back in love with it. But I think the issue that the kids are noticing now is just the lack of support. They're telling you how they feel. We've gone through this over the last 20, 30 years. If they're telling you how they feel, that's how they feel. You
Right.
should acknowledge that and help them work through those feelings. But forcing them to continue, although I'm a firm believer in finishing what you start, just know, okay, hey, you're not going to play next year.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Aaron, you got any thoughts on that?
I'm trying to wrangle my 16-year-old son. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm like,
Well,
I'm
I'm
on
going to
a
jump
call.
in.
You
I'm going to
jump
jump
in.
in. I'm going to jump in real quick on this one. One of the hard rules, not the hard rules, but kind of a rule of thumb that Aaron and I have with Blueprint is sometimes we get approached by families that have kids that are just starting off and playing frosh ball. And we say, let him be a kid. Just let him be a kid right now, because I'm sure, Jeremy, you've seen it. I know that we've seen it, that they're real passionate about sports their freshman or sophomore year. But by the time they hit their junior or senior year, they're burnt out. They don't want to play anymore. So I think it's important for the parents to just keep the lines of communication open. And like what Jeremy said, strong advocate for finishing what you started. And at the end of every season, just kind of have a little question, little Q&A, and just kind of have that heart to heart on whether or not your passion is still in the game. I mean, you're not going to ask them directly after the game, or after the season, because we're all burnt out, we're tired, we're beat up. So, a couple weeks after that, when the dust kind of settles, have that heart-to-heart conversation, and so you can approach or attack the next season.
I think one question I do have for Jeremy to just reframe this a little bit, like one the point you just made, Thomas, about just I think over specialization. I think one thing we're seeing is it's like one sport, go hard. Like what do you see? What's your advice? What's your recommendation on that?
Specialization is going to be inevitable. I think once you figure out what your sport is, you should probably start to focus, on that. But for me, I was a 3-sport athlete up until my junior year in high school, and had I not broken my ankle after receiving a scholarship offer for football, the first week of basketball tryouts, I would have been a 3-sport athlete for all 4 years. So, I tell parents all the time, especially that when I was more involved in the performance training, is like there's so many skills. The skills that you have in baseball can make you a better football wide receiver. The skills that you have in basketball, can make you a better lacrosse player. It's get the value from all the sports, play them all as long as possible. But once you kind of figure out what your bread and butter is going to be, what's going to allow you opportunities to, go to school for a reduced or no cost, then you start to specialize. But hearing about kids specializing in one sport, 7th or 8th grade, you're kind of doing you're doing them a great disservice just from the developmental standpoint. And, all the small overlooked skills that you can acquire from playing different sports.
Yep. Here's a good one. Wow. I really wasn't aware that the parents are this involved. I think that it's great to be passionate and motivated by your child's athletic career, but I control every aspect of my son's athletic career. What showcases he attends, what camps he goes to, what coaches he contacts, what schools he should target. I made a spreadsheet with his entire recruiting timeline mapped out through his senior year. Aaron, did you write this? I thought I was being, I'm kidding. I thought I was being organized and strategic. But he told us.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, spreadsheets. That's Aaron, spreadsheets. But he told me his guidance counselor feels like he has no control over his own life. The counselor called me in for a meeting and said he doesn't want to play college, but he's afraid to tell you. I said, of course he wants to play college. We've been planning this for years. She said, you've been planning this. And she said, oh my God, what have I done? Well, wow. Jeremy, you got thoughts on this one?
Yes, send me this parent's info. It sounds like she'd make a great agent.
We're going to get it. We'll send it right over. I love it.
I got a job offer for you. I mean, you sound, that's exactly what I look for in agents who are managing the lives of professional athletes.
Wow. But
at the high school or middle school level, like, no, you're your mom. You're not the manager. You're not the agent. You have to remember that you're a support system. Like, that's support. You're not you're not going to take the action. You're a decision filter, not a decision maker. It sounds like you're making all of those choices for them. And that's exactly what we do as agents and managers when the athlete reaches that level of needing an agent or manager. Your job as a parent is to really just support, control the environment, control those little things. But spreadsheets and calendars and managing and planning showcases, like it's like Jerry Maguire. You're going down a road that's going to be hard for you to get back off of, and it sounds like the damage to you being on that road has already been done.
Yep. Aaron, you got anything to add?
Yeah, relax, chill out. No, I mean, really seriously, I think you have to take a step back and just remember, like, we're here to be a guide. I'm not here to control my kid's life. Are they going to make every decision I think that they are going to make, that they should make? Of course they're not. But that's not my job or my role as their parent. My job is to be a support system so they have something to fall back on, or a sounding board, to voice concerns to, or to ask questions like, what do you think, Mom? Or what would you do? But I think it's so important that you're providing the structure and the standard. When I look at my role as a parent, it's like, am I setting the standard of the human beings that I want them to be in life? And of course they have their own set of things to learn from, and they're going to have to go through. And so that's really my job, not to control what showcases my son's going to. Is he playing 7-on-7? What football camps do we have this summer? I mean, I can just tell you that it would be a full-on revolt in my household if that was going on. So I just know that would never work. But it's got to be their desire, and then figure out what resources and tools do they need in order to fulfill that. And sometimes it's third parties like Jeremy, or like Blueprint to Blue Chip, Thomas and I, that aren't so involved, that can actually guide them in a better way than you as a parent. You are doing your job by giving them the values, the morals, the standards of how to be in life. And so sometimes the best resource too is to have somebody else come in and guide it, especially if your child wants it. Not you, Mom and Dad, but if your child wants it, sometimes a third party is actually a better guide. Because my kids don't want to listen to me. I mean, I know they love me, but it goes in one ear and out the other. So
sure. Well, that was a mom from Michigan. You came in for a parent Q&A and you got a job offer. Make sure you reach out to Jeremy. We'll call you Mom McGuire, not Jerry McGuire. I know that we wanted to keep this to an hour, and the questions are continuing to roll in. So what we're going to do is keep the questions coming. We're definitely going to address this. We could either address it through an email But if you also have specific questions for us at Blueprint Blue Chip or for Jeremy, go ahead and reach out directly to him. So Jeremy, I'm going to give you the floor to go ahead and where can people get a hold of you?
Website is www.lsmm.marketing. You can email me, jeremy@lsmm.marketing. On the socials, you can reach us on Instagram, lsmm.mgmt. Feel free to shoot us a DM, send us an email, or even give us a call. We're here for questions. We know that this part of the process, navigating these waters, especially as your kids start to position themselves to possibly gain scholarship opportunities, can be challenging. I think like Thomas and Aaron said, it's about being mom and dad first. It's funny. I told a story earlier today about how my mentor, who literally I modeled my training career based off of his studies and everything. About 2 or 3 years into me training, he decided to let me train his kids, and I'm like, I learned everything there is to learn about speed and strength and optimizing human performance. All the theoreticals and the applications I got from you. Like, why can't you train him? He's like, because I'm always going to be dad.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's about the messenger and not the message. So it's the same thing. As your kids start to position themselves in these critical years, give yourself the opportunity to just be mom or dad. Let them play, love them, support them. Every once in a while, you can tell them about how good or bad they're playing, but don't make it a regularly occurring thing. But give them the space and give them the respect to seek answers from other people. And as a parent, you don't take it personally, because that just means that they value you more as a parent and less as an agent or manager. So it's never personal. It's just more about allowing them to grow and navigate the process by themselves, but with your support.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, mom and dad, I think it's really important. And I think that a 1-2 punch here tonight was that Erin is not only the co-founder of Blueprint Blue Chip, but she's also a mom first and foremost. And I think she's shown that by how committed she is to both the business, having this webinar from the bleachers of her daughter's game. And I want to find out, Erin, if they won. And secondly, Jeremy is not only was he a high-performing athlete at the collegiate and pro level, he also has an incredible business right now to mentor and guide athletes, but he's also a dad too. Jeremy, you're a parent of how many kids and what are their ages?
Two children, boy and girl. One will be 6 next week, and my daughter will be 3 in August. And I mean, look, they have the perfect storm. They have 2 parents who were collegiate and professional athletes, wow. 2 parents who are highly competitive. And I mean, we compete to the death for everything: dishes, cooking, clean, everything is just a competition. So, and they really get involved in sports. I'm so concerned for them, but I think I'm taking the right steps now and building the support circle so that I have people that kind of step in and be the coach, the mentor, the manager, and I can just be dad.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, did you get a score, and how did Peyton play?
I didn't get a score. Get a score. They lost because I was so focused on this.
Mom and Dad, you can email us for the final score. And
yes. Yeah, she did well. She went 2 for 3 at bat, which
awesome. Awesome.
That's a good percentage. So, first and foremost, being a parent's the best thing ever, and the more you can just enjoy your children and their journey, the more you're going to enjoy being a parent. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, team, we're going to continue to do these webinars. Don't let it end here. I know mom and dad have a lot of questions, and it's not just about being a parent on and off the field with your athlete. There are other questions, comments, and concerns that get blown into our Q&A. So keep them coming. Keep those questions coming for us on what type of webinars that you want to do. And we're gonna put in the show notes exactly how you can contact Aaron and I at blueprintbluechip.com, and how you can contact Jeremy if you have any further questions, comments, or concerns. So, Jeremy, is there anything you want to say to close it out?
No, this has been a good call. It's always good to hear. I find it good to hear from parents. I think that's often the overlooked side of sports, and probably the most influential members of the athletes' success and support the parents. So it's good to hear the issues and concerns that you guys have going on. And we're looking forward to being a resource for you guys to help you navigate the journey.
No doubt. Aaron, anything you want to add?
Nope, just please reach out. I'll send out an email to everybody that joined. It'll have all of our contact information, and we actually work together. So we use Jeremy's expertise, our expertise to deliver really the whole package to your athletes. So that's why we've come together. That's why we work together, because we want to provide the best to your athlete. So just want to plug that.
Awesome, team. There's the QR code on the screen. Go ahead and lock that in. You have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and reach out. If you didn't have a good time tonight, blame Aaron. If you had fun, it was all about you and Jeremy. So.
Thanks, guys.